Good afternoon, everyone. Hi.
Another Friday is upon us. Shabbat Anything Goes is here.
Thanks so much for joining us. We are excited once again to welcome you to our show, one of our favorite parts of the week. It's hard to believe it is already like mid to late December now, it's feeling like.
There's this time of the year where I think everything I don't know, it's because the days are shorter but yeah, that leading up to Thanksgiving, then to New Year's essentially is just gone.
It really is. It really is. Greetings to our loyal viewer, JL Hadif. Thanks so much for being here. If you're also just signing in, feel free to greet us in the comments so that we can say hello to you. We're really looking forward to a great conversation this afternoon with our longtime congregant and friend, Jim Linden. Shabbat Shalom to Ruth Cooperman. Thanks for being here, Ruth.
And I think, and now for Sharon, you and I, our kids are on winter break as well. The Torah Center's gone on winter break.
Yep.
School's gone on winter break, and I think a lot of times or in a normal year, we would say, okay, we have plans. We're going to be going away.
Right.
Now it's, oh my gosh, we're on winter break. What are we going to do with the kids for 2 weeks?
Totally. I mean, we would normally be like knee deep in packing for our annual trip to Florida, which we're not doing this year. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks ahead. I'm hoping tonight at the Shabbat table, we can brainstorm as a family, like what are some things we can do to prevent ourselves from just like, the kids playing video games for 2 weeks. We'll see.
That's going to be the big test for us all is figure out things for us to do as a family, things for us to do, for the kids to do. So we're not pulling each other's hair out by the end of it. So, as you said, we have Jim Linden coming on, who is our guest this week. We also have Sharon and I have been working hard, and we actually have a great January lineup planned. Just so everybody knows, this is going to be, our show will go on another hiatus for a couple of weeks.
Don't miss us too much.
Yeah, just like we said, kids are on vacation, and things get quiet the last couple of weeks of December. So we will be back and coming back strong that first week of January. I believe it's the 8th, and then we have a few guests already lined up for January. So we'll talk about those at the end of the show. Also today, because our guest is going to be celebrating, I think, the final day of Hanukkah with his family. We're doing a little shift in our show where we're going to be doing the interview portion in the beginning of our show. So in just a minute or so, we're going to bring Jim on and talk to him and hear what he has to say. So we're just giving a few minutes to welcome everybody and give you guys a chance to come on and greet each other and greet us, and then we'll hop into interviewing Jim.
Yeah, and then just invite everyone to stick around for Eric and my conversation after our interview with Jim, so you can hear about some of the current events going on at the temple and other things that you might be interested in at this time of year. So stick around through the full hour or so.
That's right. We try not to keep you too late. Tonight is, we understand tonight's actually going to be a fun Shabbat service too, and we'll talk about that as well.
Yep. All right. Well, Eric, we've got about 10 people or so watching us so far. And again, greetings to everyone who's on Facebook. Feel free to say hello in the comments. And we want to encourage you throughout our conversation with Jim. If you have any questions or comments for him, feel free to put those in the comments as well, and we'll be sure to add them to our conversation. All right. So I guess I will bring Jim in so as to not wait too much longer. Let's see here. All right. Here we go.
And there he is.
There he is.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jim. Welcome to Anything Goes.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
You're on live television, sort of.
Live internet TV. Little did you know, I'm sure, going into this year that Temple Israel would be going strong with with this weekly broadcast that Sharon and I have taken on, really to keep our members informed about what's going on, as well as to show them, introduce them to some members who they might not have known, but who have really been and really are important members of our community. So,
But you should know that I check the Nielsen ratings every week, and Temple is, this show actually is at the top 10. Which is
we're about to renegotiate our contract, so it's good that you said that. For those who are watching at home, Jim, I'm going to give just a brief introduction of who you are, and then we'll start talking. Okay.
Great.
So for everyone, Jim Linden has lived in Long Beach since 1968, when he moved from Michigan. He was professor of psychology at Cal State Long Beach from 1968 until 2003, and has also had a private practice as a clinical psychologist from 1971 and is still practicing. Jim joined Temple Israel soon after moving to the area, and he married Nancy in 1977, and they became a Temple family as opposed to just a single member. Jim has been very involved in the Temple, serving on the Temple board from 1988 to 95, and was president of the congregation from 1993 to 95. He has remained active in Temple affairs since then, serving as the president of the Temple Foundation, the official voice of the annual High Holidays Appeal for many years, and recently has participated in a number of roles. Jim and Nancy are the proud parents of Seth and Ari, and equally proud grandparents of 3 beautiful children. And now that Seth and his wife Sarah have relocated to Long Beach, their children have become the 4th generation of Lindens to be part of Temple Israel, the Temple Israel family. So with that, we welcome Jim Linden officially.
Thank you, guys. Nice to be here.
So Jim, now that we're like 9 months into this pandemic, I'm sure the therapy business is booming, right?
Unfortunately, it is. I mean, that's sort of good news and bad, mostly bad, obviously. It's very, very stressful time for all of us, including me. People ask me that a lot, Eric, as you might imagine, because it's just difficult. It's stressful for so many reasons. We're all afraid of our health. People with kids, Seth and Sarah, and Ari, who lives in Kansas, and his wife and child are affected by it, of course. And you guys too, I'm sure, in different ways. And so that's a whole challenge, dealing with kids at home or going to school remote and whatever. And economically, a lot of people, as everyone knows, have had a terrible time. You know, Nancy and I do eat out a fair amount, and we pass a lot of our favorite restaurants, and they're closed, they're out of business. And even those that we don't know, there's people behind the restaurant facade, of course, and typically with spouses and families, and you know, the tragedy, the misery is really unfathomable, if that's a word. Yeah, it is tough. Even people, excuse me, a lot of people I'm seeing in my practice, which by the way, I do on Zoom like we're doing now. They don't come necessarily because of COVID, but whatever challenges they had before, as you might imagine, are complicated and typically exacerbated by the shutdown that we're all experiencing. As right now, it's maybe as bad as it's been for the whole 8 or 9 months.
Sure.
Our Ari, our younger son, with his wife Lara and their little baby, were supposed to come out here this past week on the 15th, and they canceled their trip wisely. They were going to stay at a Airbnb for a while and quarantine and all the stuff that one, you know, would expect to do, but wisely they canceled, and I think we're all better for it. But you know, that's a disappointment. That's different than a tragedy.
Right.
And I think we're all disappointed that we can't do the stuff that we're used to doing. My wife Nancy, as you guys probably know, is a major extrovert, and so she loves being with people. And for people like her, it's harder. I tend to be more of a not that way as much. I mean, I love being with people, but not as, maybe perhaps not as much. So it's not as much of a challenge in that way. But for all of us, it's, we're all experiencing losses. A couple other thoughts if you want.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
We'll interject when we have.
Okay. You know, they talk about silver linings. I'm sure you guys have heard the phrase, and there are some. There are some. This is one. I think we're all learning that technology can be used in ways that either we didn't know about before, or to the extent that we didn't realize we could use it before. When I go back to my practice in a spring, let's say, when am able to see people face to face, there'll be some that will be okay talking like this, and I'm fine with it. By the way, it's easier for many reasons. So that's kind of a plus. Traffic is better, the air quality is better, all those things, and I think we're learning. Sort of our ingenuity is coming through to some extent, and we're finding different ways of doing things than we ever would have thought of before.
Right.
So, you know, it's not worth the price for sure. The price is incalculable. But there
do you feel like there's extra pressure on you in your line of work, both having to be responsible for other people and trying to help them through it, and then having to deal a lot of times, you know, people who are in your line of work don't necessarily have someone else to talk to, and you have your own fears and your own difficulties and challenges dealing with this time. Do you feel like there's extra pressure on you right now dealing with all of that?
Yeah, there is absolutely. I'm fortunate. Nancy is not only a good talker, but a great listener. So she's a good person to kind of bounce things off of and share some of the things. And we do talk daily, obviously, and multiple times about stuff that's going on. And I have some close friends. Some of them are psychologists like myself, and others are just sort of good friends, you know, who you can sort of share things with. We take walks a lot. So that's been useful. I got a bike for Father's Day, and I've been using that a lot for exercise.
Great.
It took my kids a few months to get the bike, but that's okay. But
is that because you were particular on which bike you wanted, or that,
no, they just
it's hard to get bikes right now because of COVID?
Well, here's what happened. I finally bought the bike myself. And I said, "This is what you owe me."
Hey, sometimes it needs to get done that way. So.
It's great. It's great. And actually, Nancy pitched in for a third of it too, so that was good. But
it's good. I know, we know so many people have discovered kind of new interests and new hobbies during this time, with perhaps the either additional time or the additional stress. You know, we all need outlets. So it sounds like bike riding may be one of yours. Any other kind of fun or interesting things that you've been able to do or pick up during this pandemic?
Actually quite a few. I am busy during the day, and I see, you know, a bunch of people during the week. So I don't have lots and lots of time, but I do have more spare time than I did before when we were all working regularly. No, I've done lots of different things. Well, movies is one thing on Netflix and all that stuff. I've been reading some good books. I'm a music lover. I like mostly classical music. Excuse me. So I tend to just listen to pieces that I love. Nice. Beethoven and Mozart fan mostly. And so that's been good. I sometimes talk to old friends. As you said, Eric, I grew up in Michigan. And once in a while, I'll touch bases with an old friend from there or from college, and scattered throughout California. So we do tend to talk, usually on the phone, but sometimes on FaceTime or Zoom. That's probably most of it. Biking, I mean, I do a bike ride if I can 3 or 4 times a week. I'm a golfer also. And that's been a bit of a challenge this past few weeks. It's interesting. It's one of the few activities that are, relatively speaking, less dangerous.
Right. Right.
Yeah, than basketball or, you know, contact sports, obviously.
Right.
And so and we're not real good. So we tend to, our balls go in different directions anyway. So we don't tend to necessarily congregate, you know, on the fairway all the time. But we're all careful. And we get to the green, we're careful about, you know, who's putting. And they've done some interesting things. I don't know if there's any golfers watching, but I'm sure they're aware of this. You know, there's a flag stick in the green that you pull out when you're putting.
Right.
Well, you're not supposed to touch the flag stick because of transmission. So they have it fixed in the hole, and you have to just kind of bend down and pick your ball up carefully out of the hole rather than pulling the flag stick out. So the little things like that. Also, one person to a cart, and that kind of thing. So I do love golf. Although the last few weeks there's the reason I was talking about it is it's hard to get a tee time.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. It's typically I'm a Long Beach resident. You go on a week before, and it's really not that difficult.
Right.
I'll just say a quick. If you have to get on at 6 a.m. 8 days before, let's say I want to play on a Saturday. Well, the Friday morning before, 8 days before, at 6 a.m. they open it up. I'm not exaggerating. By 6:01, all the good times are gone.
Wow.
Well, it's the same with the JCC swimming. They have it on an app that to book a time, you have to be right in. You can only book like a week in advance and at that hour. And if you're a few minutes late, then those times are taken.
Yeah. Well, those kind of things are good for you, and they're popular, and they're relatively safe.
Right.
Interestingly, Christmas Day was easy to get a time.
Good for the Jews.
One of the benefits of being Jewish, right?
Right, yeah, growing up, that was the day that we always went to Disneyland because it was empty.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And saw movies and Chinese food. And
Right. What will we do this year? Well, support your own small business Chinese food places.
It's takeout, Chinese takeout.
Yeah.
Right.
Netflix and Chinese.
Right.
So you said, do you have a lot of family and connections back in Michigan?
I've got a few old friends, and most of my family. I'm from a large family, and we're sort of scattered around the country and really around the world. My dad was one of 7 kids, so that generation produced a lot of first cousins, etc. Nancy's from Detroit also, and she has a lot of relatives from back east also. So, but mostly, it's interesting. Most of my cousins are not still in Detroit and surrounding areas. It's the 60s and 70s were a time when people, I guess, did move different places. So my mother moved out here when Nancy and I had our first, and when Seth was born, our first child. And Nancy's folks moved out as well. So they kind of followed us, which was nice. One other quick comment before I forget.
Yeah, sure.
You talked in your little introduction, you mentioned 4 generations. Just to clarify, because some people may not know why that is. There's Seth and his kids, and Seth and Nancy and me, and my mom and stepdad were here. I don't know if Sharon, if you were around, I don't think you knew my folks.
It wasn't.
No. Evie Baldwin and Bob Baldwin. Bob was a very active person in the community, and so they were actually, after Bob passed away, my mother joined Temple Israel. They were at Beth Shalom originally. So that's the 4 generations we have.
So Jim, Go ahead.
Sure.
Okay. I was gonna say, you've been a member for a long time, over 50 years. What are some of your early memories of your time at Temple Israel?
Great question. Eric, your questions are great too, but.
No, I mean, mine was going to be along those lines too. So Sharon and I are on the same wavelength.
Okay. Well, when I moved out in '68, I was single then. And Wally Kelter, whose name I'm sure you both know, and
yes.
A lot of people who are watching at least know his name. You have to be on the older side to have known Wally because he retired in the late '70s, as I recall.
I knew Rabbi Kelter. He was still living when I came to Temple Israel, so I had several.
Yeah, well, he died in '90.
No, later than that, because I came in 2000. So it was.
Oh, okay, you're right. I think it was after. Yeah. I happened to be with him just the day he died, and very, very wonderful time, actually. Not happy, but meaningful, I guess is a better word. So Wally was quite a character. He was a strong person. He was Prussian in every sense of the word, strong and opinionated, and very bright and very warm, and the kind of rabbi that you sort of dream of having. Tough act to follow. So early memories of Wally were going to temple. Back in those days, we had Yontif at the church.
First congregational, yeah.
Yeah, I think we stopped that. As a matter of fact, it was my last year as president that we moved to the Carpenter Center.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway, so my first memory really was at Rosh Hashanah services. I was sitting up in the balcony, and Wally was the rabbi, and he made some joke about wearing a kippah, because it's the first time he wore a kippah, I guess, since he had been at Temple Israel. He was kind of a rebel.
Classic reform.
Yeah, and I remember sitting next to Jesse Butler.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and Stan wasn't there, and they had 4 or 5 girl daughters, and Jessie was the sweetest person, still is, and she introduced herself, and just coincidentally we were next to each other, and she invited me for dinner, and it was great. And I was smoking a pipe in those days, so I brought my pipe to her house because I thought that was very professorial, and I forgot my pipe at her house. I left. I think it was like 5 or 10 years later, she came over to my house one day and brought the pipe. It was very sweet. Anyway. But early memories, Wally really is the dominant memory. His warmth, his humor, loved to sing, loved music. And he actually flew to Detroit to marry Nancy, to officiate at Nancy's and my wedding.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in 1977. I remember him getting off the plane holding his tennis racket. He was playing tennis. And we got married in my mother and dad's condo right outside of Detroit, and that was very special. So there's been ups and downs, as I'm sure you guys know, over the years. We've had some wonderful religious leaders, and really every rabbi we've had has had his or her wonderful strengths, and I think we've been lucky to have the people that we've had. I think we've had 2 female rabbis. We had, remind me.
Rabbi Lisa Hochberg Miller, right? And then Rabbi Shore.
And Rebecca Shore, right. We're both in the 80s and 90s, I guess, yeah. So that, I think those are the only 2 that I can recall.
Did you and Nancy meet out here in Long Beach, or you said she's from Detroit too, and you got married out in Detroit? So how did that?
Great question, Eric.
Thanks.
Actually, it's a good story. It's a good story. We both grew up in Detroit, and I was back in Michigan in 1976. I had a sabbatical from Cal State for a year, and I took a whole year off and actually traveled around the world, which was quite an experience. So I gotten back from that and was in Detroit visiting my mom and dad. And I have a close friend who happens to be Nancy's cousin, who said, I have a real nice cousin who's in California visiting her sister. And so I called Nancy when I got back to LA, and we had a date on July 13th. And this is true. 12 days later, I proposed.
Wow, I didn't know that either.
Right.
That's beautiful, though. That's
really, really great.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, it was nice. And she joked. She said she still hasn't answered me, but we have 2 kids, so I think.
I guess things worked out okay.
Worked out pretty good, yeah.
Sometimes people don't answer verbally, right?
Right. Anyway, so we were fixed up, Eric, by my friend who was Nancy's cousin, and who we're still in touch with, for sure.
That's really.
Was she living in you said she was out visiting?
Yeah, she was in Detroit. She was a teacher in Oak Park, a suburb of Detroit, and came out just for the summer to visit her sister, who still lives in the Valley. And I'll tell you just another quick thing. I think our first day was a Tuesday. We went to lunch, and Nancy has a tendency to be curious about people. So this is our first date, and we're sitting in some kind of restaurant in the Valley, and all of a sudden she says, "Jimmy, would you stop talking for a second?" I said, "Sure." So she kind of leans back, and there's a couple in the what do you call it? The table behind us.
The booth. Yeah.
The booth, yeah. talking about having an affair. So I just want to say, maybe I know these people who are friends of her sisters. So we always joke about that. Anyway,
You guys might. There's a movie called I think it's called Date Night, and the part of the premise is that this couple likes to go out and they pick another couple at a table and they try to guess what they're talking about, and then of course they get intertwined with this couple and their real story. But yeah, you would probably relate to that scene.
Right. Anyway, so that was a Tuesday, and it went well. We had a lovely time, and then I called her, I think that night, and I said, "Do you want to go? Want to get tickets to the Hollywood Bowl?" It was this summer. She said, "I'd love to go, but I committed to take my 2 granddaughters and grandson for a night out every Thursday night. I do that. There was her sister's kids, of course." I said, we could take them too if you want. So Nancy's sister kind of heard that. And she said to Nancy, "Nancy, guys don't want to take their kids out, let alone their nieces and nephew. Grab this guy." Anyway, it was so she ended up changing those plans, and we did go to the Hollywood Bowl, and then we went to Scandia for a little afterwards. Remember the restaurant Scandia? You guys know?
I remember Scandia.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, fancy schmancy.
Okay.
And she had a bowl of vanilla ice cream. I was blown away. I mean, she could have had lobster and this. I said, "Oh my God, this is going to be pretty good. This is like a cheap person." Well, didn't quite turn out that way. Anyway.
That's right.
And then I guess since to get her to stay in the area so she didn't move back to Detroit, you had to propose.
I did. There was 8 days after that or whatever. Yeah.
Don't leave.
Right. So yeah, it was a fast. I was ready. I was 33, I think, and
which at that time that was later, right?
Yeah.
They getting married in their 20s. So.
Yeah. I was one of the few people that wasn't married.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was in the psych department at Cal State, and I think I was the only unmarried person in the department. So my male buddies used to like to hear about my weekends because they would get vicarious, fun.
Well, our viewers may not know, Eric, I'm not sure if you even know that I've actually known Jim and Nancy since before I started working at Temple Israel. Nancy was the preschool director at the preschool and infant care director at Temple Beth Shalom in Santa Ana, where my mom was working as executive director. So
I didn't know that connection.
I've known the Lindens for a very long time.
That was in the 90s?
Yeah, that was in the 90s. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. That was a nice time.
Yeah. Jim, so many of us know you for your strong leadership within the Jewish community, both Temple Israel and the Federation, the JCC. What drew you to, want to be in Jewish leadership, in the lay leadership realm? And do you remember sort of some of your first forays into
when I first got
leadership?
out here, my family was very, very committed to Judaism. In fact, you may know that when my mother passed away, actually before she died, I think we set up a fund at the center for like an essay contest.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the themes always have to, of course, have something to do with Israel or Judaism or whatever. So I grew up in a home that was full of Judaism, and I remember my mother and my dad especially, would tell stories as kind of bedtime stories of the War of Independence in 1948. And the kind of a David and Goliath story, because Israel was surrounded by all these countries that were hostile, and we prevailed, of course. So I grew up in a family that had a rich tradition of Jewish values and tradition. I'll tell you just a quick story that might be interesting. My mother grew up in a home, more of a secular Jewish home. And they were not very observant. So when she married my dad, who came from a more observant background, my dad wanted her to light Shabbos candles.
All right.
So my mother said, "Well, okay, I'll try." And she didn't really do it for a while. And then we had a very close friend who was a rabbi in Detroit. His name was Jack Siegel. And she said, "Jack, how do I get into it? I just don't feel it."
Right.
So the rabbi said to her, he said, "Well, Evie, just just do it for a couple weeks, a few weeks, and see what happens. And you know the end of the story. She started to feel it and really became a part of her being in many ways. Not that she was ever very religious or observant, but loved being Jewish and loved that aspect of it. So it's something that I tell that story to a lot of my clients, actually, because sometimes when someone doesn't want to do something because they're not feeling it, I use that as an example of something that just change the behavior and see what happens. I have a little, I say the best way to change behavior is just to change behavior. You know, you can analyze it and that the cows come home, but sometimes just doing it is a good thing. So I'm not sure if it answers your question, Sharon, but I when I first came out here, I was 25, and I didn't know anybody really. And Wally reached out, like I said, and sort of drew me into the Temple family. And also I was a member of the Jewish Center Board, and you know, I was sort of, I don't know what the word is. People didn't know me, say, hey, there's this young guy who maybe will sort of grab.
Yeah.
So,
they saw you had that potential.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
then that's what happens is once you get grabbed, then you're in, and you know, at least if once they find that you're willing to be part of it and do the work. And
I have to tell you something. One of the things I really am proud of, get a little emotional saying it, is my kids and their spouses, and both sons have turned out to be very not just good people, but good Jews. And Seth, maybe you know, was asked to be on the Jewish Center Board a couple months ago, and Sarah is part of the Young Leadership Group. I think it's the Alpert Group or something at the center.
the Alpert Young Leaders Forum.
Yeah. So I think both of them are sort of carrying on the tradition. So that gives me a lot of.
I know we at the Temple, they are on our short list of getting involved, with
Good.
the Temple too. So.
Good.
Yeah, that was big. That was big news in the Jewish community when Seth came back to Long Beach. Okay, here we go. That's great.
Well, it was. You can't imagine how happy Nancy and I were and are. We were at a week. We were away in Palm Desert for a weekend a couple of years ago. And they were up in San Francisco. They've been in San Francisco for a number of years. And so they said, we want to have a chat. And we were obviously hoping they'd come down. And so we had a glass of wine, and they said, well, we're really considering moving down. We'd like to move down and be closer to you guys. So they did. Can Nancy come in and sit next to me for a couple of minutes?
Absolutely.
Come here, sweetie.
Anything goes.
Well, here's our grandkids. Wait.
Oh, good. We could
Ezra, you can't come in
Linden through.
Yeah.
Nancy, hi. Welcome to Anything Goes.
Right,
Anything goes.
Anything goes. Spouses,
I didn't hear the whole thing, but I was gonna add. Can you just walk in?
No.
Okay, we'll be out in a second, sweetie. The kids are here for Shabbat. We're doing a very early one so we can have it outside.
Very nice.
But that's the other. I don't know what Jimmy has said, but how wonderful to do Shabbat every single Friday. I'll cry. But what I was going to say is I was brought up conservative though. So it was a little bit different kind of switching. I mean, I switched in about a minute, but it was just different. That was just, and again, in Detroit, it was my whole family who went to the conservative synagogue. And
then, so your paths never crossed there.
Right.
No,
right.
He was too old for
me. That would have been inappropriate.
Your best friend was my cousin.
Well,
I mean, still is my cousin.
Yeah.
The one who fixed us up.
Right.
Yeah, that's so nice. What a great story.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I know, and it's really nice that your family, that you have family that you can spend Shabbat with, and that you guys are doing. It's one of the things.
Can
my
I
parents
take this outside and show?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
They can't. Is this?
You'll get the whole Linden crew.
I'm on. If we
and
lose
we get to keep you on the show longer, Jim.
Okay. Here. Hey. Say hi.
Hey, hi. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Are the others coming in?
Ezra, can you just say hi and good Shabbos? Can you just say hi and good Shabbos?
Hi, Ezra.
That's about all we get.
Adorable.
Anyway,
who doesn't have, who doesn't have a thing for the redheads, so cute.
Right. Anyway,
So great.
So it's been a wonderful time having them here, and I think I told you Ari and Lara were supposed to come, and they
Just talk to them.
yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah. And
No, I'm sure most of your friends, I know my parents as well. Of the hardest things for them right now dealing, is just that isolation, that not being able to, or not feeling like you can safely hug your family and spend that time.
Yeah, it's very, very tough. Very tough.
Again, I don't want to be repetitious. I don't know what Jimmy has said, but I have my sister who also lives in California, which is really nice. And she's been out here forever. I mean, obviously we didn't move out here because of that, but that was a plus. They live in the Valley. And I mean, just, we can't see him as much. I'm very close to her, but she's 8 years older than me. And I have a brother in between. But we do things. So we had a cousin's wedding last Sunday that obviously none of us could go to. They're Jewish and was marrying a Jewish, and we knew it was going to be this beautiful wedding outside. So my sister and brother-in-law came down here, and I said, you have to get dressed up because we're going to drink champagne. And at least we got to watch it together on the TV. I mean, it's not the same as being there, but we could, have our own chat box with each other being, and it's those little things that I think you just have to do. I mean, we're kind of the pod, and we've gone to each other's houses, so we can do that.
Very nice.
But it's tough.
It is a very unusual time, taking a lot of perseverance.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be my first choice if you gave me a whole lot of choices.
Yeah, I don't think many of our first choices.
Right.
So,
well, we're sensing that your family is there, and Shabbat, and before it gets too dark, so we want to wrap up the interview with you, but we do that with some questions that I don't know if you ever watched The Actors Studio, Jim, but it was a show where the host would conclude each interview with some just answers, give us off the top of your head, just some fun kind of things to conclude the interview. So the first question is, what is your favorite word?
love,
And what is your least favorite word?
hate,
Makes sense. What sound or noise do you love?
the sound of a piano.
Classical music.
Nice. It was just Beethoven's, was it 250th birthday or something, I think.
Very good.
This
Very
week,
good.
yeah.
Good for you.
He looks great for that.
Yeah.
That's terrific, yeah.
In fact, he'll be joining us on Anything Goes in
Any day
January.
now.
So what sound or noise do you hate?
Oh my gosh.
Baby screaming.
Oh, maybe a siren, because it is associated with
Something bad.
something bad. Yeah.
Mhm.
What profession, other than the one that you've done or that you do, would you like to attempt?
Oh, that's another good question. I do have some answers to that, but I know is it a one-word thing?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, you can describe it.
I've had fantasies of being a conductor of an orchestra.
Ah,
And actually, you guys may not know this, but a number of years ago, I conducted the Long Beach Symphony in a piece on my 60th
It was for
birthday.
60th birthday. Yeah.
So,
That's great.
It was a long number of years.
or if not that, quarterback on the Detroit Lions.
there you go.
Or
You
not.
would get sacked so many times, though. It would be. All right. What profession would you definitely not like to do?
A surgeon. I'm not good with blood.
Okay.
I can vouch
And the
for
last
that.
question is, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
What took you so long to get here? Which would mean that I've lived a long time. I
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I just have a couple thoughts? People are
Please.
watching that we can't see, of course.
Sure.
I'm just hoping that everyone can be patient, because we're not there yet by any means. Even though the vaccines are here and around the corner, it's going to be another few months. And I think the challenge right now is to hunker down for another, who knows, 2 to 3, maybe 4 more months, because it's going to end. is going to end, and we're going to get back to something. It may not be where we were before, but I think if we can be patient and rely on each other for connection and support, we'll all make it. And when we get back together, we can see each other on Yom Tov, on Rosh Hashanah, and actually hug each other and be a big family again. So.
And I was just going to add, I mean, I think we're lucky to live in California, but I think that the further we go, the colder it gets, and we all have to end activities earlier because of, so I just hope we can all be patient and utilize the outside time when we can, because I mean, we don't normally have Shabbat at 4:30 in the afternoon, but we're doing it so we can all be outside and freeze to death and can still see each other. So that's a tough thing going into winter is what I'm.
Yeah, I agree. We are lucky. We're lucky to have couples like you and Jim, people like you in our community to help, be a voice of reason and calm and through this whole thing and helping guide. I think a lot of people out there who need guidance and need that voice to get us through this time. And I agree. We'll if we're patient and hunker down, we'll hopefully in 4 months or so we'll be on our way back to normal. So
from your lips to God's ears.
I appreciate the chance that we had to talk, Sharon.
Likewise, Jim. It was so fun to spend the 45 minutes or so with you. Thanks, Nancy, for joining us as well.
Thanks for letting me butt in.
Yeah. We wish you guys a wonderful Shabbat with your family, and we will look forward to seeing you in person very soon and online before then.
And Mazel Tov to you, Sharon. You have a new niece. I hear.
A new niece, yes. Thank you.
Have a good Shabbos.
All right, to you too, and to our guests, if you want to stick around for a few more minutes, Eric and I will speak about some updates at Temple Israel, and to Jim and Nancy. Okay, there we go. They're gone. Okay, on to them. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Well, that was really quite an interview. He's such an interesting and genuine and warm person. It's so nice to hear from him and a little sense of sort of you from these interviews we always get a little different taste from a person, a little personality that you don't typically get to see. So. Yeah.
I know there are always so many special moments in these conversations. So to our viewers, hope you all enjoyed that conversation with Jim and Nancy. And if you know Jim and Nancy, or perhaps even if you don't, maybe reach out to them and let them know that you enjoyed the conversation. If you have any questions, follow-up questions for Jim, feel free to reach out to him via email. But we would love to tell you about some of the things that are going on at Temple Israel this weekend, and over the next couple of weeks before we sign off. So, Eric, what are some of the latest things to report from Third and Loma? Eric's in his office, making sure the building is still there.
I would hate to leave this space, completely deserted, but so I'm here often, making sure everything stays good. But it was an exciting week of Hanukkah. I think there was our community, our congregation, our friends had a lot of different options, different things that they could do to celebrate together. I know, Sharon, you had what seemed like the most fun you could have online Torah Center program.
So fun. We had a super fun Zoom Hanukkah program with a dance party and scavenger hunts and contests. It was minute to win it games. It was really fun. If anyone was on last night's candle lighting that we did with Hank and Joyce Feldman, you got to see my 8th night of Hanukkah look. I was online with a blue wig. If you missed it, scroll down on the Facebook page, you can see the silliness. But yeah, that was great. And I loved the whole week of having our congregants lead us in the candle lighting each night. That was really, really lovely. Something that I imagine we'll do even in post-pandemic times, right? It was just
right. You think we talk about those silver linings of different hey, that was really special. It was really it's great. It's this show, doing those interviews, doing those chances for our members to do those special moments and to share those special moments with them.
Right. Yeah, and we had lots of amazing music that was brought to our community over Hanukkah. We had the Mostly Kosher concert last night, in which Cantor Haas participated. We had the concert with Hama Robin last Sunday, which was a lot of fun to see our old friend Hama Robin in partnership with Temple Israel again. So lots of great things. We had our community Shabbat service and Hanukkah service last Friday night. Yeah, it was a really festive Hanukkah, I'd say.
Yeah, and
Despite
tonight,
the fact that we're online.
yeah, and well, today technically is the 8th day, but I know that tonight's Temple Hanukkah service, or tonight's Shabbat service, be actually a Tot Shabbat that's going on. That's going to start at 5:15. That's going to be a Tot Shabbat, and then at 6 o'clock, our Got Shabbat band. I know Kendra and Barry have put together a musical piece for us. We're going to see and hear from Rob and Debbie Feldman to give us a little taste and a welcome of God Shabbat. So it's a really nice way to sort of end the Hanukkah Shabbat with these special things.
It would be great. And then, as Eric said at the beginning of the show, we're going to a couple of weeks of something more relative quiet. We'll of course still be having Shabbat services and Havdalah and Torah study. We won't be having Torah Center or as many Joys of Jewish Learning programs. We come back in January, ready to go with a whole lineup of fun programming for Torah Center and for JJL. We've got some great things in January. Cantor Haas is going to be leading a wine and text study program, which should be really great. We have a virtual tour of Jewish New Orleans with a authorized tour guide from New Orleans. He actually now lives
Really
in
looking
Israel.
forward to that.
Yeah, that
great.
should be cool. That should be like a wine and tour, or like hurricane and
Yeah, I was gonna say, what about? Yeah, you have to have a big frozen.
yeah, some tall drink, right? With beads or something. So that'll be fun. We've got a cooking class in January. Lots of great things to look forward to. So we'll be sending out our Joys of Jewish Learning next quarter's catalog within the next probably week or so. So be on the lookout for that.
And also, if you haven't looked at our new website yet, you should go on that. All the events and all the Zoom links and everything to get you onto those classes are all on our new website. The calendar is fully up to date, and we really want to make that a resource for our members and our community. Soon you'll even be able to access your membership profile through the website. We're working on that right now. But it really is, it's a great new website. It's really functional for our members. So hopefully you'll join that. Also, if for you or for any of your friends who want to learn more about Judaism, the rabbi is starting the Introduction to Judaism course in January, which is an 18-week in-depth venture into really understanding Judaism. So if you have friends who are interested in converting or interested in just learning more, or you yourself feel like you want to really delve deep into your Judaism, there's an opportunity for you to do that. So encourage you to either sign up, tell your friends, and let people know that that's going to be happening.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, just keep, everyone should just keep an eye on our emails that we send out all the time, trying to let people know about what's going on. We have our monthly newsletter, which is going to go out, and it'll also highlight all the exciting guests we have lined up for January. As Sharon and I said, I think is our January full, or do we have one?
I think we have one more. The last week in January is not yet booked, but we do have the 3 preceding ones are all booked.
So again, for those out there who have some ideas, people they'd love to hear from or hear Sharon and I interview, please also put that in the chat or email us. And we love getting suggestions. And I think, frankly, we love doing the show. And the more people, we'll whittle down we'll get through the whole congregation, I think, eventually. But let us know who you want to hear from, and we'll definitely work that into our list. So
great.
All right, Sharon.
Well, I think that's about it. We want to thank everyone for joining us for another episode of Anything Goes. Thanks to, I know there's so many people that have joined I haven't said hello to, but greetings to my parents are here, and Kendra Hogarth's here, a previous guest on Anything Goes. Harriet Ellis is here, also a previous Anything Goes guest. So thanks for joining us, everyone. We had a great time and hope you enjoyed the conversation with Jim Linden as much as we. And we wish you a wonderful Shabbat. Please join us again this evening for Tot Shabbat or regular Shabbat services at 6 o'clock. And then Torah study tomorrow morning, Havdalah tomorrow night with Cantor Haas and me. And we wish you all a great rest of the weekend.
Great rest of the weekend.
Thanks so much, Eric.
Shabbat Shalom. Sharon, great seeing you as always. Great conversation.
Perfect.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.